there. Let's talk a little bit about some of our favorite spring portal additions. I want to start in Columbus because you and I have talked a lot about this guy. Think about Jack Sawyer, JT Tuimoloau. Both those guys have left, departed for the NFL draft. Ohio State, obviously trying to defend their national championship run. They bring in Beau Atkinson, and it came down to Georgia in Ohio State. You think about this guy, only a sophomore, 7.5 sacks last season, and another guy that kind of can remind you a little bit of Jack Sawyer in some ways, a really high floor pass rusher, but also productive as well. Tell us why this guy's going to impact Ohio State next season.
Well, Coop, look at it like this. Ohio State's one of the few teams that intentionally go into the portal, understanding their true needs. Like they went through this entire spring and gave those young guys an opportunity. But with Beau being able to come in and give you that same impactful intensity, being able to play the 3 technique and defensive end, and give you that production in terms of affecting the quarterback that JT and Jack left you with, you don't have to think about what those young guys are going to do when they go out there in the horseshoe. You know what Beau is going to do when he gets out there. All he's been is an effective defensive end that can impact the run game and the passing game with production.
14 guys drafted over the weekend for Ohio State. Easy money for them. They seem to do that every year. Mark Pantoni, one of the best in the business. Only 8 transfer commits at this point. You look at everybody else in the country, even some of the best teams, the contenders, they're north of double digits. If you could build it one way, would you build it like Ohio State's building it, leaning so much on the high school side, getting to the point of continuity, they know who they are, and then just sprinkling a little flavor via the portal?
See, the word that you use is continuity. Like they've all, on the offensive side, for the most part, other than a coordinator coming in there in or out, they understand exactly what they need on their offensive side and on their defense because their head coach has been there. So when you go there and you recruit, you can say, I'm going to build through the high school level. And if those young guys that we were depending on didn't get developed as fast as we're going to think they were supposed to, it's okay. We can go out because we have the proper resources to go out and get the right pieces to fit this puzzle, a la what Will Howard did last year when they had to let one quarterback go to bring in a quarterback to make sure that this Ohio State train does not stop.
Yeah, you like what they're doing on the offensive line too. Probably 2 more guys out there each side of the line of scrimmage that I think they're trying to add. All right, a name that I really like, you and I have spent a lot of time talking about him, about Modozie from Army, West Point. And, you look at Georgia, and I think a lot of people look at Jalen Walker. They look at Michael Williams, Chaz Chambliss, all these guys. Damian Wilson, they lose him in the portal. And I bring up Modozie because, well, he's got a little bit of Jalen Walker in him, his ability to play on ball, off ball. Guy had 6.5 sacks last season. We've talked a lot about this guy's background. This is going to be a fascinating one from a case study standpoint. Seeing a guy that used to be a receiver in high school, was 6'3", 195 pounds. He has put on 50 pounds in college. And that's hard to do at West Point because you typically have to keep your weight down to a certain point for military training. So Modozie is going to make the jump from West Point to the teeth of the SEC there in Athens. I love this kid, his ability to get after the passer. Georgia needed this, and we talked about it at the top of the show. Spring portal is for some of those guys in there that you don't expect to be in, that you feel can add something a little bit different. I think the floor for Modozie is you get an excellent depth guy that can give you some DPR ability, and the ceiling is, hey, this guy could grow into a day 2, maybe potentially even day. Like that's how high it is. He's got a ways to go, but man, the flashes are special.
Well, when you bring somebody into that environment, Coop, what you're banking on is iron sharpen iron. Like he's been around good players, but he's not been around elite players with elite training, elite coaching, because that's what Georgia's known for. Georgia's known to get defensive ends, outside linebackers that can pass rush. Nolan Smith, Jalen Walker, Michael Williams. So when you go out there and you get a young man that has untapped potential, raw clay, he's shown you the ability to gain 50 pounds, like you said, at West Point. Now, what is he going to do in Athens with all that nutrition, coaching, rehab, prehab? We might be looking at a 10-sack guy that they just hit on late in the portal, but they did really good research listening to you.
Howie Roseman already has this guy on his radar right now, ready to pick him at 28 through 32.
Howie's been listening to you, just like Kirby has.
All right, well, let me ask you a question. You've been a little bit tough on Kirby Smart and really kind of banging the drum for, hey, bring a general manager in there. You need another voice in there. What do you think about what they've been able to do so far this spring?
I think they've attacked it the right way. And again, you have to look at Georgia just like you look at Ohio State. They've done so well in high school recruiting that one or two pieces, the right pieces, making intentional moves, are the real plays for those teams, not for everybody else. Because again, resources, they can go out and go get whoever they want, when they want, how they want.
All right, we got a under the radar, if you want to call it that, us in the transfer portal world. This is one of the bigger additions of the spring. Joe Cotton, left tackle from South Dakota. You turned me on to him. 6'7", 310 pounds. Really good South Dakota offensive line. They had another tackle go to Vandy and Bryce Henderson. But this was a huge get for Cincinnati. They had a big need at tackle. There's rumors out there that he went for north of $2 million. You see the tape here against Wisconsin. I thought he held up well. Could end up even being a guy that plays on the right side at the Power 4 level for Cincinnati. So we'll see what happens there. But what do you like about Joe Cotton, his fit at the Power 4 level?
Big, nasty, firm offensive lineman that has really good athleticism. Like, you look at him like, oh, he's not a good. No, second-level production. Getting off of the second level, sealing, always on his feet, running his feet on contact. But Cincinnati's retooling that offensive line. And when you retool your offensive line, you need a big-time get. This is a big-time get, and that just not by the 6'7", 315 pounds. His overall ability, he can start on 90% of most teams in college football. They got to steal with Joe Cotton.
Yeah, and we had a late day 3 grade on him. He's easily, I think, one of those guys, if he plays well at this level, could work his way up the board in a hurry. I talked a little bit earlier about Keelan Marion. You as a general manager, you're looking at that room in Miami, that receiver room. You have Carson Beck. Obviously, you're invested in him. You have a very salty and experienced offensive line. You know that's going to be a really good unit under Mario Cristobal. And you got a north-south run game with Jordan Lyle and Mark Fletcher. Do you think that they've done enough between Keelan Marion and C.J. Daniels, and you got the 3 young pups that got to grow up as well? How would you feel if you were at Miami right now going into the season where the pressure's on to win an ACC championship?
Knowing who's coaching that position, Kevin Beard, I believe one of the better receiver coaches in the United States in terms of developing young talent. When you get a guy like this in Marion, coming in with explosive, take the top off of your defensive play ability, speed, burst, and just he's ready. Like, he's never been a guy or the guy. You're going into a situation right now with arguably the best quarterback for NFL scouts in college football, with a receiver-friendly scheme without a lot of production that's in that room right now. So you're going in saying, I'm the veteran. I'm coming into the spring, and you know why I'm coming here. I'm not coming here to mess around and be a good leader. I'm coming here for one thing, production. Get the ball to me. And they've not been afraid of getting the ball to their receivers, except Xavier Restrepo, that went undrafted, but highly, highly productive player. You take Keelan Marion and put him in that position, design plays for him, because you don't need to design a ton, because he can get open on his own. Get the ball into him. I think you're going to get more explosive plays and big play opportunities to make Carson Beck look good, because you made an investment in him too. So you have to make sure that investment shows off and pays off with talent around him.
We're going to find out how good of a player he is, because to Miami's point, I think Marion's one of those guys that you watch on tape. Athletically, he's extremely gifted. You see his ability in the return game, but now it's about getting the opportunities. He's going to have that at Miami. He's going to have the first real opportunity to have more than 30 receptions in a year. I expect a lot more out of him. He's a Sunday player as well. All right, let's go to the trenches. Guy that you liked, Alabama A&M. You brought it up today. Alabama A&M getting picked over right now in the transfer portal. But Sedrick Smith going to your old stomping grounds in College Park at Maryland. What do you like about the IDL?
Well, just showing up there, you've lost 5 defensive linemen. You lost 4 to graduation, 2 to the NFL draft, Tommy Kimbasute, and you also lost Jordan Phillips to the Miami Dolphins. Now what you need is to replenish that defensive line. Coach Locks understands the Big Ten better than most coaches in that division, because he's been there since he was at Illinois as well too. And when you go into the Big Ten, what Maryland's done in the last few years, they've added beef. But when you lose out on production and beef, strength, point of attack, ability to go through a 13-game season And if you study Maryland, they usually start off pretty good. Then as they go throughout the season, you see them start getting beat up. And guys are going to miss games. But now that's when you get into the proper management of that defensive line. And that's when Sedrick comes in. That's when Joel Starling's another guy that they picked up in terms of adding beef. We talked about Texas adding in beef. Now they were tier 1 beef. But now Maryland's coming in with this young man, point of attack, thumper, stout, and he's going to give you a little bit more pass rush than most people think, because now Maryland's changed that defense. It's not a 3-4 anymore, Coop. It's a 4-down defense that gives you more of an attack, one-gap penetration.
How attractive are the young defensive linemen that have multi-year eligibility, like a guy like Sed Smith?
I love those guys. Just because you and I talked about it earlier, one of the most undervalued positions in college football is to properly assess the development of defensive linemen and offensive linemen. Typically, we give up on them too quickly. Like if they're not coming in and knocking guys back off the ball, and if they get moved, oh, yeah, he can't play. No, those guys take time, because what they do is they get in the weight room, they get hardened up, strengthened up, and you have to learn how to play against strain. Most of us don't understand what strain means. Strain means you get 700 pounds walking you back, and at some point you have to wake up and say, you know what, I'm going to kick the crap out of these two guys, and it's not going to happen to me anymore. And it's not that easy of just saying, this is who I am. No, you get developed into that by training that way for years to get the understanding to do that.
All right, believe it or not, we're 30, 40 minutes into the show, if I had to guess, and we haven't talked about North Carolina yet, so we got to get that in. I want to talk a little bit about Gio Lopez and what he kind of brings to the table from South Alabama, and this is a guy that is better categorized as a high-floor game manager, but he can do some things on the ground, had over 400 yards rushing as well. North Carolina's quarterback situation before this spring, pretty sticky, right? Is it going to be Max Johnson? Was it going to be Ryan Brown, who transferred in from Purdue? Was it going to be the young freshman that they have a lot of confidence in there as well? I think it's going to be Gio Lopez, and one of those guys that can win the room over pretty quickly. The way that he marries up with Freddie Kitchens, the offensive coordinator over there, I thought this was one of the stealthiest pickups, even though it's North Carolina and there's going to be a lot of buzz, and this one's not going to fly under the radar. I like this pickup because I think it matches the timeline. It's a high floor timeline. It's like, let's not go all in. They didn't push for a Nico Imaliava. Maybe the price wasn't right, but this was a guy that they valued and they loved the fit as well. And I think from a competitive standpoint, it's going to have him in it.
This is a 6 to 8 win quarterback. And in your first year, Belichick and Lombardi going in, that's all you can hope for, because really you have to comb through this roster, purge out the guys that you don't want, get the ones that you do want in, and get through your first high school year of recruiting. And when you have a quarterback that's been through it, understands how to play the game, has mobility, right? We all understand that the biggest factor in college football to me, the equalizer, is a mobile quarterback that can process quickly and run the RPO game. And that's what he does well.